All right, well, it's 2012, and so I think it's time we talk about the apocalyptic narrative as a cultural meme, as something that's really global. You find it in cultures around the globe. Now, there are differences in the apocalyptic narrative. Within the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, time tends to be looked at as more linear. Within the, let's say, the Mayans, okay, we'll choose them as an example because, well, it is 2012 after all, time tends to be seen as cyclical. And so their calendar is very much of a cyclical understanding of time, of creation and destruction, where, or rather, destruction and recreation, where this year is not necessarily in the really indigenous context. I don't think this year was supposed to be looked at as something of fear. Uh, I think that the year was supposed to be looked at almost in a way as something of liberation. You know, we're entering, in a lot of Native Americans believe, that we're entering the fifth world, and a lot of them look forward almost to the release. You know, that the fifth world things will be restored, good as new. Interestingly enough, within the what we could call the Abrahamic apocalyptic tradition, there's also the idea of the fifth world. If you look at the book of Daniel, you have the four kingdoms, and the fourth kingdom is destroyed by the fifth kingdom, which encompasses the whole world, and that's the Messianic kingdom. So, interestingly enough, you have this idea of the fifth world. You have the fifth monarchy movement from 17th century England that built on this idea of the book of Daniel, and we wonder what cultural influences went back and forth. You know, we don't know. It would be an interesting question. In Hinduism, you have, again, the idea that this is Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is the age of materialism. It's an age of great spiritual darkness, but Kali Yuga will have an end, and that end will be the New Age. And that New Age will be a time of enlightenment. But before we get there, we're going to have to go through trials and tribulations. I would even say that secular philosophies have been under the influence of the apocalyptic narrative more than they would admit. I mean, if you look at Marxism, there's an apocalyptic narrative. The late stage of capitalism becoming imperialism, and then the great climactic struggle leading to liberation. Now, Marxism is based on a Western concept of time, linear time. Okay, so it's a little different than it's very different than the Mayan concept. Although I suppose within Hegelianism there is the idea of the cycle too, but it's not a cycle that goes around. It's a cycle that's more helical in a way. And I would say that the apocalyptic narrative even influenced the technological culture. Transhumanism has an apocalyptic narrative. We are heading towards the singularity, they will say, and only those who fully adapted to a kind of new order of things will move on to something like immortality. You know, if you look at I don't know how you pronounce it, extropianism, sorry if I've mispronounced it, you have the whole idea of humans merging with machines. And again, a lot of you who don't believe in 2012, you know, you laugh at 2012 and you laugh at the apocalyptic narrative, but a lot of secular-minded people believe in their own form of it. Even Carl Sagan pushed the idea of, you know, each planet has its chance of survival, and that the planets that blow themselves up won't move on, and that the planets that don't blow themselves up will become enlightened, and they'll become scientific civilizations that will explore the cosmos. And Carl Sagan was the last person in the world to believe in 2012 or the Day of Judgment. Is 2012 the Day of Judgment or the Year of Judgment? Is 2012 when that's going to happen? Whether you say the next step in human evolution, the dawning of the Messianic Age, the renewal of the Mayans, whatever it would be. Well, for one thing, I would say that if you look at various dates on the human calendar, I remember there was the year 2000. That was supposed to be the time. I remember there was some year in the 80s that was supposed to be the end of the world. Harold Camping predicted something a little while ago. I also note that I believe it was Joseph Priestley who believed that the French Revolution set the stage for the Book of Revelations, and he was a rationalist. I mean, that's how far the apocalyptic meme goes. If you go back further, you have 1666, you have the year 1000. The early Christians, a lot of them believed that the end of days was near. A lot of Jews believed that the Messiah was going to come at that time. I'm sure within, again, I mentioned the Hindu tradition, the Buddhist tradition. I don't think that Hinduism and Buddhism used to be apocalyptic quite as much, but my guess is that Western religious ideas have influenced them to a greater extent. Native Americans, obviously, Islam has a great apocalyptic tradition that the current Iranian government seems to quote from very extensively. So the question that I would ask of 2012 believers is, why is this year different? That in a sense, this year, 2012, has such resonance that people really believe that this is going to be the time that as you go through it, you go to the next stage in human evolution, whatever you constitute that to mean, or else the next stage of human spiritual evolution, I think is what they would say. Most religions would put, even those religions that don't believe in biological evolution, still believe in some form of evolution of consciousness, or the next step upwards, heaven, the movement up. And so I guess the question is this year the year, or, if indeed there is, if indeed we do follow the logic of these philosophies? Well, don't ever rely on a hack from YouTube to answer a question that affects the future of your soul. This channel is a channel of a truth seeker. I'm an armchair philosopher. I probably could do a whole lot better at philosophy and the various subjects I've covered, but I'm really probably too lazy. And, the honest answer is, I don't know, okay? And I don't have any evidence to say yes or no. What I would say is this, and that is, if we are going to follow any spiritual philosophy, or if we are secular, then I would say if we're going to follow any moral philosophy, then we treat each day as it is. If we look at life through the exclusive lens of teleology, meaning the idea that we're moving towards something, we're not going to see the present moment. Those in the secular world who want some kind of next step in human evolution haven't defined what teleology really means, or how it is that teleology even comes into play. Bacteria is billions of years older than we are. Who's to say that they're not more evolved? It's kind of a misnomer. And for those in the spiritual realm who would, again, follow the idea of a next step in human evolution, I would be very careful, because when the European colonists met the Native Americans and various indigenous people, a lot of them assumed that these were gods simply because they were more physically advanced, more advanced in technology. I'd be very careful of that idea. It is my opinion on 2012. And it's not to say what's going to happen. I can't say that on December 21st, 2012, that we're not going to have a comet swing by the Earth, and that we're not going to have possibly some astronomical phenomenon. I don't know. Okay, I'm not predicting the future, but I would predict one thing, and that is, come December 21st, 2012, the next day will be December 22nd, 2012. The day after that, December 23rd, 2012. Finally, we're going to get to New Year 2013, and we're going to have to deal with life either way. Meanwhile, every moment, every instant, every now moment is precious. I mean, if you're going to experience the love, if you're going to experience that thing we could call love, that is our connection to all living beings, we experience that in the present moment, right? And let's say something's going to happen, let's say not. At the end of the day, when push comes to shove, it's what you can manifest now in the lives of yourself and other human beings and other creatures, okay, that really counts. Too much of the history of civilization has been about the history of being in bondage to time constructs. And I think that if there is a next step in human evolution or spiritual evolution, then maybe it's the idea of getting beyond that. It's just a thought. All right, well, happy 2012, everybody. And yeah, when December comes along, I'm going to pop the cork. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you.